Over a year ago, I beat Pokemon Leaf Green with using only status moves. It was a horrible grind, but it made for some fond memories. I was looking back on it and thought, maybe I can try this challenge again, but in a different game. I must be a fan of torture. Now that some time has passed, I seem to have forgotten how absolutely painful it actually was to complete this challenge. This time I had the brilliant idea to beat the entirety of Pokemon Crystal using only status moves. I love Pokemon Crystal, and some of my fondest memories of playing these games growing up was playing Pokemon Crystal. But this run, let me tell you, this run was even worse than in Leaf Green. But we'll get to that. So let's cover the rules real quick. I will have them listed in the description below this video, so feel free to refer to that at any time, but here are the basics. I have to win all my battles using only status moves. No attacking moves whatsoever, like Tackle, Quick Attack, Water Gun, even Struggle is going to be banned. I have to defeat my enemies only using status moves. No items in battle except for held items and Pokeballs for capturing wild Pokemon. I can't use Pokeballs to stall out turns. Set battle format. No free switches in this one. I'm also not going to be using the daycare. This generation yields experience points when Pokemon are left at the daycare, and I feel like this can cheapen the challenge a little, so I won't be using it. I have to level up by only using these whimsical rules. And no cheats or exploits of any kind. I will not be modifying the game at all for this run. Are we ready? Our very own Pokemon legend is about to unfold. We'll face fun times and tough challenges. A world of dreams and adventures with Pokemon awaits. Let's go. So I start out by choosing Chikorita as our starter. It has a few useful status moves if I do decide to use it. I probably won't use it much though, since Leech Seed is only an egg move for it, and since I can't use the daycare, I can't learn it. I can't really do much in the game until I get some decent experience points, and Route 29 is not the ideal place to do this. I decide to rush ahead to Mr. Pokemon's house to get the Pokedex from Professor Oak. After doing that, I face down our rival for the first time, and lose since we can only use Growl. We don't need to win this battle to progress, so we'll let him have this victory so that defeating him in a humiliating fashion later on will be that much more satisfying. After getting my hands on some Pokeballs, I capture a Hoppip and a Caterpie. I caught a Caterpie since I remember from my Leaf Green status only run, Butterfree can be very helpful. In this game though, there are no abilities, so no compound eyes for Butterfree to help increase its accuracy. And since its stats aren't very good, I'm really not sure how useful this will actually be. I got a Hoppip since it is a Pokemon that can indeed learn Leech Seed by level up. That move is going to be vital for us. He doesn't learn it until level 20 though, so it's going to be a while before we get it. I name Hoppip Cosmo and Caterpie Wanda since these two could be our very own version of magical fairy godparents whisking us to victory. Yeah, I know, that's pretty lame. And the last Pokemon I caught for this area was a Ladybug. I caught this one since it learned Supersonic at only level 8, thus giving us a status move very early on that can help us actually deal damage. I don't nickname it though, since I doubt that I would end up using it as part of my final team, but this could be really important in getting us to the early game. Okay, so I know what the burning question is. How do we get some much needed experience? Here's what we have to do. Hoppip spawn in the grass in morning and afternoon on Route 30. These wild spawns only have Splash in their movesets, a move that literally does nothing. What I must do is I must find one, switch Pokemon in and out while Hoppip splashes around fruitlessly. Once it runs out of PP for this move, it will start struggling. Then I can continue to either switch in and out or use status moves like Growl. This will allow these little cottonweeds to knock themselves out from recoil damage. Thus, I'm not directly damaging them. For now, I'm making sure to gain experience on Ladybot and Cosmo, and I'm sneaking a little bit in on Chikorita, since I need Supersonic as quickly as possible, and Hoppip gets Synthesis at level 5, which is actually a pretty decent move to stall out Pokemon as they slowly knock themselves out from confusion. This takes an eternity. Let's talk about it. So Hoppip, first of all, only has a 5% encounter rate in the morning and the afternoon on this route. So, just the simple act of encountering one and finding one takes a while. Then, I have to watch them waste 40 moves of Splash. Only then to have to watch them struggle themselves down slowly. Then I'd have to do this to get Ladybot from level 3 to level 8. This is agonizing. Seriously, I cannot express to you just how painful this was. Finally, Ladybot grows to level 8 and learns Supersonic, and I can finally make progress. This whole process took me nearly 13 hours of gameplay. I repeat, 13 hours. Now granted, I did lose focus a few times. A couple of times, I accidentally ran away from a wild Hoppip, and another time, I left the game running while I ate some dinner. At most, though, these mistakes may have inflated my time by maybe only about an hour, maybe an hour and a half. This was absolutely ridiculous, and I don't recommend it. As a side note, though, I did not realize that I can actually catch a Zubat on this very same route, but at nighttime, and Zubat learns Supersonic at level 6 instead of level 8. I thought the earliest I could get Zubat was in Dark Cave, which is blocked by youngster Mikey, and I wasn't going to beat him without Supersonic. So, yeah, this probably would have saved me a few hours. Whoops. After defeating youngster Mikey, I capture a Zubat in Dark Cave, name it Zuzu, and then I capture a Ghastly at Sprout Tower and name her Anne Boleyn. Then I proceed to take on all the trainers in Sprout Tower. I'm not sure if I'm going to stick with Zubat. It is another Supersonic user, so that could be helpful, but it doesn't have great status moves otherwise. Ghastly is absolutely going to be a keeper though. Good typing and has really unique status moves. Sprout Tower wasn't all that difficult, but of course it took a while. Confusing the Bellsprout and tail whipping them with Cosmo helps them do big damage to themselves with self-inflicted confusion damage, so it's a good place to level up. Now it's time to try and get our first badge. The first battle didn't go so well. The birds didn't hit themselves all that often, and when Pidgeotto started to get going, it just rolled through our team. The second attempt went way better. I did have better confusion RNG, but I had a better strategy too. I'd first put the Pidgeotto to sleep, and then I would try doing things like ruin its accuracy and lower its defense with Tail Whip before I confused it. That way, when it woke up, it would often miss, and when it did hit itself, it would do big damage. It took a lot of setup, switching in between all of the different Pokemon to get this done, but it really disrupted the Pidgeotto. It works pretty well and earns us the Zephyr badge. After clearing Union Cave, we make it to Azalea and clear out Team Rocket from the Slowpoke well. While it is slow, the confusion strategy works really well to help us get rid of the poison types, and we're able to defeat the Rattatas by poisoning them with Cosmo. So next we can take on Bugsy. Bugsy actually went really well. Anne Boleyn knows Curse now, so that's a huge upgrade to our damage output. So after we poisoned the Metapod and stalled it out, we afflict Kakuna with a Curse since we can't poison it. After the Kakuna is successfully stalled out, next up is Scyther. And this thing can really be dangerous if we don't start disrupting it quick. I made sure that Ladybug was out when Kakuna fainted, so that it would be out when Scyther hits the field. We were able to cripple his accuracy by hitting Flash a few times, then we confuse it with Supersonic. After Ladybug goes down, we're able to switch into Anne Boleyn and afflict it with a Curse. Then, we just stall it out with Cosmo and watch him fall to confusion and curse damage. Hive badge obtained. The next rival fight went really well with a first try victory, so we progressed through Elix Forest and reached Route 34 south of Goldenrod. Here we capture a Drowsy and name him Go to Sleep, since I'm going to be muttering that to myself a lot whenever I'm using him. Drowsy is going to be a little difficult to use in the early game, but it gets really good stats when he evolves into Hypno. Plus, it has a really unique moveset that could be really helpful, but we'll get to that. While battling the trainers on Route 34, Cosmo grows to level 20 and finally learns Leech Seed. We then let it evolve into Skip Bloom, and now we have a big upgrade to our available moves and some nice boosts to our stats all at the same time. I then finish off all the trainers on Route 34 south of Goldenrod and all the trainers on Route 35 north of Goldenrod. I battle trainers for a reason. Battling against trainers gives us more experience than wild Pokemon, and trainers also give us money when winning, so it's just far more efficient to battle against trainers than it is to find wild Pokemon to grind against. Any battle that we take on with these rules takes an eternity, whether it's a trainer or a wild Pokemon, so I'd much rather fight the trainers than search for wild Pokemon. But trainer battles can be pretty agonizing at times too. As an example, take a look at this final gym trainer before Whitney. We are up against her last Pokemon, and I have Drowsy out. I'm trying to put Jigglypuff to sleep so that I can safely switch into Cosmo so that we can Leech Seed it. We proceed to miss Hypnosis 6 times in a row. This move is supposed to be 60% accurate. That means 6 times out of 10 we're supposed to hit. And we missed 6 times in a row before the Jigglypuff puts us to sleep with its 55% accurate Sing. I get fed up and just switch into Cosmo, only to miss our first Leech Seed, which is 90% accurate by the way, and then get put to sleep by Jigglypuff again. Then, while we're asleep, Jigglypuff disables Leech Seed, which is a genius move by the way. We then wake up to use Poison Powder, but miss again. Finally, we hit our next Poison Powder, cease being disabled, and hit our next Leech Seed, and finally whittle her down for the win. Do you see why this challenge takes so long? This is just one random trainer's Jigglypuff, and it took me nearly 3 minutes to beat this one Pokemon alone, and only got us 242 experience points. And this is by no means an uncommon occurrence. Battles like this happen all the time, at least once or twice every hour of gameplay. And it can be even worse if we're facing grass and poison types, denying us the ability to poison it or Leech Seed it. Yeah, this is a very time-consuming challenge. Keep in mind too that status moves are typically very inaccurate. It's also worth noting too that a lot of the moves in Generation 2 have a different accuracy rating than in their more modern Pokemon games. Most notably that Flash is 70% accurate instead of 100% accurate in the most modern game it's available in, and Poison Gas is 55% accurate instead of the 90% accuracy it has now. This really stinks since these moves fail all the time in this run. On the plus side though, Swagger is more accurate at 90% instead of 85%. So not a big difference, but you know, I'll take it. I will say though that much like in my Fire Red, Leaf Green status only run, the gym trainers are going really well. Whitney, for example, was pretty easy. The Clefairy goes down to Leech Seed and poison damage, and after ruining Miltake's accuracy with Go to Sleep's Flash, we finish it off with Anne Boleyn using Curse. First try victory. After clearing out the Kimono Girls, we claim our Surf HM and go to take on Morty. Cosmo is now a Jumpluff, and we're able to take out the ghosts pretty effectively with Leech Seed. His Gengar though can be pretty scary since it has 2 powerful moves in Shadow Ball and Dream Eater. After seeding it though, I have this hilarious exchange where I keep switching in and out between our Go to Sleep, who is asleep, and a weak Togepi as Leech Seed slowly drains him. See, whenever Go to Sleep is out, he tries to use Shadow Ball since it's super effective. But before he can attack, we switch into the normal type Togepi who's immune to Shadow Ball. Then, knowing this, Morty tries to put Togepi to sleep so that he can use Dream Eater. But then we switch back into our sleeping go to sleep. This nickname was a mistake, and his hypnosis fails. We do this until he finally runs out of time and goes down to Leech Seed. You know, it's fun to find some quirky little strategies like this to gain a victory despite being at a clear disadvantage. We now have the Fog Badge. So, after this, I grabbed the Spearow from the guard at the north gate of Goldenrod. It has mail attached to it, and I'm supposed to deliver it to this guy on Route 31. Now, I know there are many trainers who play this game who commit the felony of Grand Theft Pokemon and actually hijack this Spearow for their team. Can you believe that? Not me, though. I'm a good little doobie, and I actually return it to this guy. No, I have no ulterior motivation for doing this. I did this out of the kindness of my heart. Incidentally, though, in return for our kindness, this guy gives us TM50. And this will allow us to teach a Pokemon the move Nightmare. This is a great status move that drains an afflicted Pokemon 1/4 of its HP while asleep. This is the reason why I caught a Drowsy. Go to Sleep can learn this. So I teach it to him right away, and now we have another method of depleting opposing hit points. I then go on a trading expedition, defeating nearly every single trainer on routes 38, 39, all of the trainers at the Olivine Lighthouse, and on the surfing routes 40 and 41 en route to Cyanwood. As I'm about to reach the shores of Cyanwood, I suddenly come to a delightful realization that there is another Pokemon that I can get here and use for this challenge. Shuckle. This guy gives us a Shuckle named Shucky. Shuckle is a super tanky Pokemon with the highest defense and special defense stats in the game. With her incredible defense stats yet low HP, Shucky has great synergy with Leech Seed users since she takes very little damage each turn, and often the amount of HP recovered from opposing Pokemon fully recovers our HP, or pretty close to it. I also taught her Swagger with the TM I got from the Lighthouse, so that opponents will do big damage to themselves when confused. And Shucky is just going to shrug off attacks, even when Pokemon have a 2-stage boost to their attack stat anyway. We also get great status moves with this Pokemon like Rest and Safeguard, and I wanted a Safeguard user anyway since opposing status moves is actually something that gives us some trouble. Now all of that is fantastic, but that's not all. Shucky also gets boosted experience since we aren't its original trainer, making it very easy to train up. I cannot believe that I completely forgot about this Pokemon when researching this challenge. I love Shuckle, it's one of my favorite Pokemon. It has a cool design, and its crazy stat distribution is absolutely perfect for this challenge. Also, look at this animation of her using Withdraw. It looks like she's putting on a hat. I mean, come on. How do you not just love her after that? After getting Shucky, we take on Chuck and we defeat him pretty easily. He was no trouble at all. Seriously, there is nothing that I can say that can make this battle remotely interesting. Let's move on. I deliver the medicine to Ampharos, and then we head east to the Lake of Rage. When I get there, I capture the shiny Gyarados. It's really not going to be useful, doesn't have many status moves, but it's at level 30, so it could be switched in to tank some hits. But more importantly, it can learn HMs 3, 4, 6, and 7, Surf, Strength, Whirlpool, and Waterfall, helping us to traverse the map with mainly just one HM user. After clearing out the Team Rocket hideout in Mahogany, I go to take on Price. We have to be careful since our primary damage dealer is Cosmo with Leech Seed, and Price's Ice-type moves are quad effective against him. We are able to safely navigate the Seal and Dugong by landing Leech Seed and stalling them out with other Pokemon. His Ace Piloswine comes out, and we are able to land the Leech Seed the first turn, but he retaliates with a Blizzard, knocking Cosmo out in one shot. But now that he's seated, Shucky is able to stall him out really well, and Piloswine ended up hitting himself in confusion to finish himself off. Glacier Badge obtained. After that, we shoot back over to Olivine to take on Jasmine. She's usually tougher than Price, even though you're supposed to fight her before Price. I never would do that though. But we are a bit underleveled other than Cosmo. That's why I wanted to fight Price first and take out all the trainers in his gym so that I can gain some extra experience before taking her on. We can't poison her steel types, but between Leech Seed and Sleep Powder, we're able to safely switch into Shucky and stall out the Magnemites as they slowly fall to Leech Seed. I also like to set up Safeguard to protect us from their Thunder Wave attacks. With Steelix, I Leech Seed it, put it to sleep, then curse it with Anne Boleyn before switching into Shuckle and watch it go down actually really quickly. Mineral Badge obtained. After clearing out most of the radio tower that was taken over by Team Rocket, we head to the underground so that we can acquire the card key so that we can gain access to the Rocket executives on the top floors. Along the way, we get challenged by our rival, for the 4th time. Yes, this is the 4th time I've battled him. I didn't even bring up the 3rd since it was trivial. But this battle being one of the tougher matchups against him, I figured I'd cover how it went. It started with Golbat. I Leech Seeded it and stalled it out with Shucky. Midway through though, I decided to switch into Anne Boleyn, trying to steal some experience, but this was a mistake and I got one-shot by a wing attack. So we switched back into Shucky and finished it off. Next is Magnemite and we confuse it and then switch in to Go to Sleep. We put it to sleep a couple of times and give it nightmares and then it finally goes down. It really did a number on Go to Sleep though. Next is Sneasel and we let Go to Sleep go down so that we can safely switch into Cosmo. I Leech Seed him the first turn as he fails a Leer. Yes, Leer is 100% accurate, but in Gen 2, all AI status moves have a small chance to fail regardless of accuracy, and this lets me safely switch into Shucky to stall out the Sneasel. Next is Haunter. I debate for a while on whether I should stay in with Shucky or switch into Cosmo. I decide to stay in and use Swagger. This kinda backfires though, as Haunter uses Mean Look to trap us in, until either he faints or we do. So this forces us to rely on Swagger to deal damage. We got lucky though, as he hit himself 3 times in a row to knock himself out without letting off another attack. And last is his Quilava, and we stay in again, tank a Flame Wheel, and then confuse him with Swagger. Then we switch into Cosmo. Quilava fights through the confusion on the switching turn and lands a Flame Wheel. We Leech Seed him the next turn, putting him on a timer, but he counters with a massive critical hit Flame Wheel, bringing Cosmo down to 3 HP. I decide to switch back into Shuckle as he uses Quick Attack, trying to take out Cosmo but hitting Shucky instead for pathetic damage. He never ends up hitting himself in confusion, but it really doesn't matter. He's unable to deal enough damage to Shucky to withstand the chip damage, and ends up going down. That was actually a pretty tough battle, the toughest I've had in a while. His type diversity and having 5 Pokemon made it a bit of a challenge to navigate it successfully, but navigate it we did. So after this battle, I suddenly remembered that there was actually another Pokemon that I wanted to get way back after I got Surf. I had completely forgotten about this in my haste to make progress, but I might as well get it now. The next Pokemon is Smeargle. This is a very interesting Pokemon that I personally have never used before. If you surf through the lower level of Union Cave, you can access a different area to the ruins of Alph. Here, you can find Smeargle. I catch this one and name her Artemisia. Named after Artemisia Gentileschi, the first woman to be a member of the Academy of the Arts of Drawing in 17th century Florence. I'm actually kind of proud about that nickname. Anyway, the reason I wanted at least one Smeargle is it can learn any move in the game. In case you don't know, Smeargle technically only learns the move Sketch by level up and cannot learn any TMs or HMs. It knows only Sketch up through level 20, and at level 21 it learns Sketch again, and then every 10 levels after that until it reaches level 91. Sketch is a move that will permanently allow Smeargle to learn its opponent's last move, giving it a shocking variety of move choices. It's a bit tricky since you have to see a move used in battle before actually learning it. For example, I accidentally had this wild Smeargle learn Sleep Powder from Cosmo. I should have manipulated the battle so that it would learn Leech Seed instead, but that's okay, I'll stick with it. I have a way to get Leech Seed a little later on, and Sleep Powder is useful since it is the most reliable way to put opponents to sleep. While Smeargle's stats leave much to be desired, It can be very handy with its variety of moves, and it does have some decent speed, allowing it to outspeed many opponents. So after this, I go back and clear out the rest of the rocket admins at the radio tower. They really weren't that difficult, there's not much to talk about. Then I head east through Ice Path to get to Blackthorn, where the final gym of Johto is located. I clear out the gym and take on Claire. Honestly, between Leech Seed, Confusion damage, Poison damage, she was pretty easy. This game was before abilities were a thing, so her Dragonairs not having the Shed Skin ability made this pretty straightforward. Just Leech Seed and Poison opponents and stall them out with Shuckle. Rising Badge obtained. And that is all 8 badges. Let's go to the Indigo Plateau. So now we cross over into Kanto. We make our way up through the routes and get through an absolutely barren Victory Road. I forgot how weird this was. And on the way out, we're challenged by our rival for the last time in Johto. His team is very similar to last time, so I'm not going to get too much into it since most of his team went down pretty much the same way as it did before. The only major difference is that he has a new team member in Kadabra, giving him a full team of 6, and while this Kadabra didn't actually pose much of a threat to us, he just prolonged the battle for seemingly an eternity by continuing to use Recover. We had him poisoned and leech seeded, and he managed to stay on the field for an annoyingly long time. Finally, after hitting himself in Confusion preventing him from recovering, he finally went down. So next up is the Elite Four. I trained up my team a little bit more on wild Pokemon, mostly though I just wanted to get Artemisia up to level 41 so we can have another move of Sketch. I want to sketch a move off of one of the Elite Four members. So the first Elite Four member is Will, and after I got through Xatu and Jinx, we have Artemisia out on the field up against Exeggutor. This is the Pokemon that I wanted to sketch. Exeggutor does have the move Leech Seed, and I want Artemisia to have access to this move. That way it gives us 2 Leech Seed users who don't share the same weaknesses. Exeggutor uses Leech Seed right away, so we're able to sketch it early. Great! I wasn't really trying to win this battle so much as I was trying to set up this exact situation to get Leech Seed, so we're not really well positioned. I try to win anyway, but after trying to manufacture this outcome, we eventually go down. By the way though, this literally had me laughing out loud. Would you look at this Egg Bomb animation? Okay, maybe it's just me, but I always envisioned Egg Bomb as being an exploding egg shot at us at a high velocity. But clearly the devs had envisioned something very different here. They envisioned Exeggutor placing an egg on the ground and rolling it over to us slowly to have it blow up in our face. That is hilarious and fantastic. Man, I love these older games. So now let's take on Will for real. I put Xatu to sleep, then Leech Seed him, and begin the stalling process. It is able to wake up and land a fairly powerful Psychic, but we're able to put him back to sleep and recover a bit with Leech Seed as Xatu number 1 goes down. Jinx is next, and I put it to sleep right away so that I can avoid the quad effective ice move that is undoubtedly coming in. I then Leech Seed it and switch into Shucky so that I can try to stall it out. I confuse the Jinx, but she wakes up and ends up putting Shucky to sleep, and since Shucky can't recover, Jinx gets a bunch of free shots in and eventually takes Shucky down. This is why status moves really hurt us. I should have used Safeguard there. I then misclick on the switching turn and accidentally put in Ambulin, forcing me to hard switch into Go to Sleep since Ambulin is not withstanding a Psychic. Go to Sleep though endures the blows pretty well and Jinx eventually goes down. Xatu number 2 is next, and due to missing Hypnosis 4 times, we're unable to get Nightmare going and thus Go to Sleep goes down before any damage is dealt. Man, I hate how inaccurate Hypnosis is. Cosmo comes in and misses his first Sleep Powder and thus takes damage, but hits the next and we're able to stall out Xatu with Leech Seed as we're able to keep it asleep and slowly recover HP. Slowbro comes out next and we seed it right away. He hits pretty hard with Psychic, but often he opts to just buff his stats with Amnesia and Curse instead, so Cosmo does a pretty good job at taking him down while staying pretty healthy. And last up is Exeggutor. Since Powder moves work on grass types in this generation, I poison him right away with Poison Powder. Psychic though nearly takes us out. This is precarious. He will not take any poison damage on turns that he gets a knockout. This can really snowball out of control, but I have a secret weapon. Go, Chikorita! After Exeggutor obliterates our starter, we're able to safely switch into Anne Boleyn. I use Destiny Bond to take out the Exeggutor after he knocks out Anne Boleyn with a Psychic. Pretty cool way to clinch the victory though. And that's it, Will is defeated. Sorry about that, Chikorita, but way to take one for the team. Our next challenge is Koga. He leads with an Ariados and I lead with Artemisia. Between putting him to sleep, confusing him, and seeding him, Artemisia is able to bring down the Ariados without taking a single hit. So, we're up against Venomoth now. We implement our regular strategy of sleep, seed, and confuse. This really works so well. He is able to sneak in a Psychic, but we're able to put him back to sleep and fully recover the damage done by the time he ends up going down. Now it's time for Fortress, and this thing is pretty scary since he can blow up. But after putting him to sleep, leech seeding him, I switch into Anne Boleyn since she completely walls this Pokemon. Fortress moveset consists of Swift, Explosion, Spikes, and Protect. Really, just a terrible moveset that does absolutely nothing to ghost types. So obviously, we're able to stall it out pretty easily. On his last turn though, I switch back into Artemisia so that we're ready for the next Pokemon. While we do take some Spikes damage, we recover a little bit with our final turn of Leech Seed. Muck is next. Sleep, Seed, Confuse. After setting this up, I switch into Anne Boleyn, stall him out. Really easy. No lasting damage taken. Last is Koga's ace, Crobat. Now I thought that Anne Boleyn would outspeed, but she doesn't and actually takes huge damage from a wing attack. Fortunately, we're able to put Crobat to sleep and then we're able to set up Curse. With Anne Boleyn going down, I bring out Shuckle. She takes a surprising amount of damage from wing attacks, and we end up getting poisoned. Man, this Crobat is actually no joke. We are able to rest though to recover our HP, so eventually we're able to stall out the Crobat as he goes down to curse damage. And Koga was cleared. He was pretty tough, but he was a bit easier than I thought he was going to be. Next up is Bruno. He leads with his Hitmontop and I lead with Cosmo to set up Leech Seed. This is why I wanted 2 Leech Seed users. Cosmo is good against Bruno because he can tank fighting type moves due to his flying typing, whereas he would be weak to Koga's poison moves. Thus, Artemisia was a better option for Koga. Anyway, we're able to stall out Hitmontop effectively. He always tries for quick attack on Cosmo, so we can always safely switch into Anne Boleyn. Then, when Anne Boleyn is out, he tries to use Dig since there's no Levitate ability, and therefore we're able to safely switch into Cosmo, who is immune to Dig. Hitmontop goes down to Leech Seed and poison damage. He sends out Hitmonchan next. We're able to put him to sleep and Leech Seed him in successive turns. I then switch into Go to Sleep since he can tank and Ice Punch so much better than Cosmo. I then start switching between Anne Boleyn and Go to Sleep since he keeps trying to hit elemental punches on Anne Boleyn and Mach Punch on Go to Sleep. Mach Punch literally does nothing to Anne Boleyn on the switching turn, and the elemental punches do effectively nothing to Go to Sleep since these are classified as special attacks in this game, and Hitmonchan's special attack is garbage. So after the Leech Seed damage, Go to Sleep recovers back to full HP every time. I'm switching like this a lot in this battle because I'm actually starting to run low on power point restoring items since these battles take so long and I have to recover so much after these battles. Switching saves me on power points, so I'm just trying to be more efficient. Hitmonchan finally goes down. Onyx is next, and he actually gave me some trouble. I missed my first sleep powder, so he's actually able to trap Cosmo in with Bind. I then opt for Leech Seed and Poison Powder instead of trying to put him to sleep since I only have 1 sleep powder left on Cosmo for the rest of this battle. But between Sandstorm and Bind chip damage along with super effective Rock Slides, Onyx takes out Cosmo before we can ever recall him and he goes down. I send out Go to Sleep and try ruining Onyx's accuracy with Flash. We are stalling him out between the Leech Seed and the poison damage, but he is also chipping us away with Bind, Sandstorm, and Earthquake. Go to Sleep is down to half HP when Onix finally goes down. On his way out though, he sets up another Sandstorm, so I guess we have to deal with that now. When has Onix ever been this difficult? This Pokemon is never even worth bringing up. He really gave us trouble. Bruno's Onix gave me trouble. I never thought I would ever say that. Next up is his ace Machamp. We miss our first Hypnosis and he hits us with Rock Slide, and after sand damage, Go to Sleep is down. This is not good. We have to go into Artemisia now. We hit Sleep Powder on the second turn after each of us missed our first attacks. Good thing too, because Cross Chop would have absolutely finished off Artemisia. Then I'm able to land Leech Seed and switch into Shuckle to stall out the Machamp, as I continue to boost her defense with Withdraw, and eventually Machamp goes down. Last up is Hitmonlee, and we have a defense boosted Shuckle out there right now, so I opt to stay in with Shuckle. High Jump Kick does a mere 10 HP of damage, so we can tank some hits. We're able to confuse him with Swagger, and with his high attack stat, he only needs to hit himself twice before he finishes himself off, as we take minimal damage despite the boosts from Swagger. And that's it for Bruno. I can't help but think that I could have had a better strategy to make this a safer fight. Man, that Onix was brutal. Next up is the Dark Trainer Karen, and her lead is Umbreon, as I lead with Artemisia. Umbreon's forte is to be a bulky troll who really stalls out a battle, but with our strategy of Sleep, Seed, Confuse, we're able to completely stall him out with Shuckle and get through with full HP across the board. Vileplume is next, and she gets off a Petal Dance on Shuckle, and we are able to confuse her though with Swagger. We switch into Go to Sleep as she hits herself in confusion twice before we put her to sleep. She never ends up waking up from her nightmares, so Vileplume is down. One thing I haven't really talked about in depth in this video is that if Go to Sleep does not have the speed advantage against his opponent, then the first turn of Nightmare wouldn't do damage, since in this generation, it calculates status afflictions after you use a move. This happens against the subsequent Murkrow. This sometimes means that Go to Sleep won't get off any damage, even if he does successfully put someone to sleep and land Nightmare in consecutive turns. It's kind of a weird interaction and can make things awkward at times. But with Karen's Murkrow, it stays asleep for a long time, takes 3 turns of Nightmare damage before it finally knocks out Hypno. Then we switch into Cosmo, miss our first 2 turns of Sleep Powder, thus taking about half of our HP in damage, but we land our next one and are able to finish off the Murkrow with Leech Seed damage. Murkrow is actually kinda tough. Glass Cannons give us trouble. Next up is her ace, the terrifying Houndoom. After we miss Sleep Powder again, Cosmo gets finished off by a powerful Flamethrower. I decide that this Pokemon is by far the biggest threat on her team, so I send out Anne Boleyn. I use Destiny Bond and Anne Boleyn takes down the Houndoom with her. Next up is her Ghost type, Gengar. She tries to take us out with a Destiny Bond of her own, but this fails since we cannot one-shot anything. We miss our Leech Seed though, and the next turn she spites away the last of our Leech Seed power points. Uh-oh, that was actually brilliant. The only way that I can damage her now with the remaining Pokemon that I have is through self-inflicted confusion damage. So I land Confuse Ray right away and switch into Shuckle. After boosting her attack a couple of times with Swagger, she hits herself twice, bringing her down to a quarter of her health. I need her to hit herself one more time, and after 2 turns, she does, securing us the victory. Karen was really tough. Her spiting away our power points was a stroke of genius on her part. After the battle, I'm able to heal up and restore most of our power points, although we use all of our PP restoring items to do so. There is only one battle left in this gauntlet though, and it's up against the Bird Keeper Lance. I believe that we're ready for this. I hope we're ready for this. Let's do this. He leads with Gyarados, and I have our team leader out for this whole run, Cosmo. Sleep Powder hits the first turn, so we're able to safely Leech Seed him on the next. I switch into Go to Sleep as Gyarados wakes up and sets up a Rain Dance. After landing a weak Flail, we recover with Leech Seed and put him back to sleep with Hypnosis. Then we give him Nightmares. After a turn of Nightmare damage, I switch into Anne Boleyn since if he wakes up, there's a good chance that he'll use a normal type move. This does happen, and he fails to hit our gassy friend here with a Hyper Beam. He doesn't feint to Leech Seed though, so we're kind of in an awkward spot. I decide to switch back into Cosmo, knowing that he's not going to select a normal move now, and fortunately he just sets up the Rain before going down. That's one down. Next is one of the level 47 Dragonites. Oh, wait, hold on, no, it's Charizard. Wait, why did he just switch like that? He had every opportunity to bring in Charizard on the free switch, but he just hard switched in the middle of a turn? Whatever. Charizard comes in and just gets blasted in the face with Sleep Powder, so cool. We then hit it with Leech Seed, and knowing that Shucky should be able to properly stall out this Charizard, I switch into her and hit it with Swagger as he slumbers. After a few turns, he wakes up and indeed hits himself. He's down to about a quarter of his HP, and he hits us with a Hyper Beam next turn, doing a whopping 15 hit points of damage. We get it all back with Leech Seed. He has to recharge this turn, so I switch into Anne Boleyn as he falls to seeding. Next up is one of the level 47 Dragonites. For real this time. And we're able to put him to sleep with Anne Boleyn. We then switch in to Go to Sleep, who is really kind of like the Freddy Krueger of our team at this point, and we give him Nightmares as he stays asleep for quite a while, taking 2 rounds of Nightmare damage. We hit Flash a few times in the process, so when he wakes up to use Thunder, he misses. We then, both of us, miss all of our turns for the next 2 rounds in a row. He misses a 3rd time, but our next Hypnosis hits, dooming him as Nightmare takes him out over the next 2 turns. Level 47 Dragonite is out again. Is this Groundhog Day? He successfully paralyzes Go to Sleep on the first turn. We then miss 2 Hypnosises in a row, and he hits 1 of 2 Blizzards. Our 3rd Hypnosis lands, so we can successfully afflict him with Nightmares. Then I start to try to land Flash quite a few times to destroy his accuracy, but we miss 2 of 3. Okay, so I've yet to be fully paralyzed, but we're also 2 of 6 between Flash and Hypnosis attempts, so I think it balances out. Dragonite though goes down before he can ever wake up, so that's 4 down, 2 to go. Next is the ever-terrifying Aerodactyl. This is the Pokemon that I fear most on his team. Fast like a bullet train and hits like one too. After taking a Rock Slide, Go to Sleep misses another Hypnosis, dooming him, and he goes down on the next turn. I gotta say though, Go to Sleep really put in work on this battle, more than did his part. I have no real good answer for Aerodactyl though, so I send in Anne Boleyn. Aerodactyl is faster and takes Anne Boleyn to dangerously low health, but since we hang on, we're able to set up Destiny Bond. Aerodactyl hits us the next turn, taking out Anne Boleyn, but in true ghostly fashion, she takes him down with her. Awesome. That is 5 down. 1 more. Level 50 Dragonite hits the field and we send out our leader, Cosmo. We put him to sleep on the first turn, and then he heals the sleep with a full restore. Odd choice being at full HP, but we hit it with Leech Seed. Then we put him back to sleep and switch into Shucky, but Lance cures the sleep again, but this time with a full heal. Should've used that the first time. We then both have this funny exchange where we both set up Safeguard. No status afflictions for either side for a while. I really should have done something different here, but I knew he had the speed advantage and was likely to set up Safeguard, so I didn't want to just give him an attack boost for free. He then starts using Outrage, revealing his true strategy. Safeguard will protect him from confusing himself with Outrage. This move is very strong, and in this generation is classified as a special type move, so Shucky can't boost her defense against it. After several turns, he is doing quite a bit of damage, but we're staying relatively safe with Leech Seed. After getting to low HP, we rest. He's locked into Outrage, so this dooms him, and he finally goes down to Leech Seed. That was amazing. What a great battle. We did it. We're champions. We're in the Hall of Fame. The Elite Four was pretty difficult, especially since we were quite a bit underleveled, especially our level 9 Chikorita. He gets into the Hall of Fame. Look at the game time, 54 hours. This doesn't include resets, which there were several. This challenge is not over yet though. We still have to get through all of Kanto so we can take on the region's strongest trainer, Red. He's waiting for us on Mount Silver, so let's go. Most of Kanto is pretty simple. As many of you know in your playthroughs of Johto, all the gym leaders and trainers are weaker than the Elite Four members, and we already beat them, so there isn't really much to talk about. There are two exceptions though. Red, which I mentioned earlier, and the final gym leader, Blue. He actually has a pretty tough team. But before we jump ahead though, I just wanted to say, because we're still playing by the same rules of status-only moves, the battles are anything but quick. Sure, most of the time we're not in any real danger of losing any of them, but they still take forever. As an example, what I'm showing you right now is a random Pokefan trainer on Route 13. He has a team of 6 Pikachus all at level 23, so not strong. My Pokemon are all in the level 40s at this point. This battle takes me 15 real-life minutes to actually win. And he gave us a run for our money here. We had to go back to the Pokemon Center to heal before progressing. I know I can skip trainer battles, but I need my team to level up. I think we can beat Red if we're a bit underleveled, but with his team having levels ranging from 73 to 81, mid-level 40s, it's just not gonna cut it. So I fight nearly every single trainer on nearly every single route, and then I clear out the first 7 gyms and all of the trainers inside. My whole team right now is at about level 50, and it's crazy to think that this is as high as a level as I can get after battling all of the trainers in both Johto and Kanto. But for our next adversary, it should be enough. Blue has a Pidgeot, Alakazam, Rhydon, Gyarados, Exeggutor, and Arcanine, all ranging from level 54 to 58. He leads with his Pidgeot, and we lead with Artemisia. We miss our first Leech Seed, so Blue is able to take Artemisia down to low HP before we hit our second. This leads to my choice of just letting Artemisia go down so that I can get a clean switch into Shuckle to start the stalling process. When Pidgeot drops to about half HP, I decide to switch into Go to Sleep to finish him off. After taking a big Wig Attack, we are able to put it to sleep and stall Pidgeot properly. Right before he goes down though, I switch into Cosmo. This baits out his Arcanine. Now, this guy can really hit us hard with Flamethrower, but fortunately we outspeed him and hit our first Sleep Powder, rendering him ineffective. We then hit him with Leech Seed, but not before Blue uses his turn to cure Arcanine's ailment with a full restore. So I then risk it and put him back to sleep with a Sleep Powder before switching into Go to Sleep. Blue again, however, cures Arcanine with a full restore. According to Bulbapedia though, he only has 2 full restores, so at least we're getting them out of the way early. He hits a massive critical hit Flamethrower on Go to Sleep, bringing him down to low HP. I want to preserve Go to Sleep, so I decide to switch out into Totoro. He's pretty specially tanky, so I decide to stall him out with the big boy. Between protecting and getting HP back with leftovers, he can't deal any lasting damage. On Arcanine's last turn, we switch into Shuckle. After tanking a Flamethrower, Arcanine goes down to Poison and Leech Seed damage. He sends out Rhydon, so I decide to send Totoro back out. After hitting us with a Fury Attack and setting up a Sandstorm, we miss our first Toxic. He then hits us with a big Earthquake and brings us way down to low HP. I decide to switch into Cosmo to evade the Earthquake and hit him with a Leech Seed, but he one-shots us with a Rock Slide in return. Ouch. I send in Shuckle since Sandstorm damage at least won't hurt, and after protecting against his first Rock Slide, he decides to foolishly use Fury Attack instead of the super effective Rock Slide. After protecting the next turn and him getting sapped by Poison and Leech Seed, he is down to a sliver of HP. On his final turn, he decides to use Fury Attack again instead of Rock Slide, and subsequently goes down. Why was he using Fury Attack? It is literally the only bad move he could have used against Shuckle. Whatever, I'll take it. Next up is Gyarados, and without Cosmo, this is precarious. I hit him with a Swagger on the first turn as he sets up a Rain Dance. I then switch into Anne Boleyn as he hits himself, losing a third of his HP. I try for hypnosis and hit, putting him to sleep, so I switch into go to sleep to afflict him with nightmares. Because Gyarados is faster though, he's able to burn 2 turns of sleep before we can actually afflict him. Because of that, he's able to wake up without ever being afflicted by the move. He fights through the confusion and blasts us with a Hyper Beam, easily finishing off go to sleep. I decide to switch into Totoro, knowing that he will have to recharge, so I'm able to land a Toxic. I'm able to then use Protect to stall out another turn. I switch into Shuckle, and with Gyarados still being confused, he hits himself on the switching turn. After stalling out another turn with Protect, I decide to switch into Totoro, believing that he's going to use Hydro Pump. I'm hoping for a miss. And he does. So that's it for Gyarados. Next up is Alakazam. I Protect on the first turn to try and get some leftovers recovery, but he just sets up a Reflect. I then select Toxic on the next turn after he hits us with a powerful Psychic. I should have done that in reverse order. After stalling the next turn, I switch into Shuckle. She handles the powerful Psychic okay. I decide to use Swagger on the next turn. We are down to 24 HP and his Reflect fades, so I'm guessing that he'll try to set it up again. I decide it's worth it to rest instead of protecting. It doesn't matter, however, as he hits himself and takes poison damage and is thus brought down to low HP. Now Shuckle has full HP, so I switch into Totoro on the next turn, fully anticipating on sacking him, but he elects to recover instead of attacking. I Protect the next turn, but he hits himself in confusion and then succumbs to the poison. That's another one down, one more to go, and it's Exeggutor. He gathers for a Solar Beam as we poison him with Toxic. This leads to the easy decision of protecting the next turn. I decide to stay in and stall out with Totoro, but he hits us with a Leech Seed. Given Totoro's massive HP, this precipitates a switch into the sleeping Shuckle. He hits us with a Solar Beam as we snooze, and it does do quite a bit of damage, but poison damage is racking up. We sleep another turn as he gathers for another Solar Beam. This allows us to protect the next turn as we are able to wake up. This causes his Solar Beam to fail. He then falls to the poison. And that's it. We have all 8 badges of Kanto. Honestly though, I'm surprised at how challenging Blue was. Our level difference wasn't that great, and we had some bad luck on missing Leech Seed the first turn, but other than that, I'd say we had RNG work in our favor for this fight, and it was still a slog. That does not bode well for Red. I'm going to make a few run-throughs of the Elite Four to level up a bit, and I'm thinking maybe level 60? I don't know, let's give it a shot. Okay, so rematching the Elite Four is the best way to level up, but it takes forever. I'm deciding that if I can just get everyone up to level 55, that's enough to at least make an attempt at Red. So here's our team at level 55. Most of our team is fairly defensive, so we might be able to do this. Artemisia's stats are so bad though. I mean, 57 defense at level 55? That is awful. Maybe I can squeeze one effective move out of her. Maybe. Fortunately, you don't need any HMs to progress through Mount Silver in Pokemon Crystal. Flash is helpful, and we already have that on Go to Sleep, so we can use our full team of 6 in this matchup. Let's do this. He leads with his level 81 Pikachu, and I lead with Cosmo. First Sleep Powder we miss, but he just uses Charm, so we put him to sleep right after that. Red wakes up Pikachu with a full restore as we land Leech Seed, so we put him back to sleep. I then switch out into Shuckle, and Red cures his sleep again with another full restore. I decide to set up Safeguard as he hits us with Charm. I don't want to get paralyzed here. He hits a Thunder as I use Swagger. I then use Protect to stall out another turn. Pikachu is at about half health, and we tank another Thunder as we waste a turn. Then Pikachu hits himself a Confusion on the next turn, knocking himself out. Isn't it crazy though how Pikachu's speed is its best stat, and he still can't outspeed my Cosmo despite a 26 level difference? That's pretty nuts. Pikachu kinda stinks. Next up is Blastoise. I switch into Cosmo to tank the Surf. It still does about a quarter of our health despite the resistance, but we're able to put him to sleep on the next turn. Then we set up Leech Seed. He wakes up after only one turn of sleep and uses Blizzard. Fortunately, it misses. That surely would have one-shot us. I decide to switch into Go to Sleep since he's fairly well equipped to tank a blizzard that's no doubt coming in. Fortunately though, he misses again. He then lands a Surf, taking out nearly half of our health, but our Hypnosis hits, putting him to sleep. We recover quite a bit from Leech Seed and leftovers, and then we land a Nightmare. Blastoise never wakes up this time though, and eventually goes down to Nightmares as Go to Sleep is back at full health. Espeon hits the field. We tank Psychic well and are able to lull Espeon to sleep. We then land Nightmare. I then start using Flash so I can ruin his accuracy. Espeon stays asleep for a while, taking 4 rounds of Nightmare damage. We recover to full HP from leftovers in the meantime. He is down to 1 HP before he finally wakes up. He misses Psychic though due to the accuracy drops, and we successfully put him back to sleep. I switch into Artemisia as Espeon goes down to a Nightmare. Next up is Snorlax. I land Sleep Powder the first turn, and then we're able to hit him with Leech Seed. Snorlax wakes up immediately though and lands a huge Body Slam for a 1-hit KO. Well, that was expected, but at least we were able to see the big boy. I then switch into Anne Boleyn. I confuse Snorlax and curse him as there is really nothing he can do except rest and buff his stats. One bout of Leech Seed is enough to recover a quarter of Anne Boleyn's HP, so I switch into Shucky so that she can benefit from the recovery too. Then I switch back into Anne Boleyn. He tried using Snore while sleeping, but he hit himself in confusion, and then he goes down to Leech Seed and Curse as Anne Boleyn is back at full HP. Venusaur is out. We miss Hypnosis as he sets up the sun. We miss our second Hypnosis, and Solar Beam takes Anne Boleyn down to 22 hit points. I decide to switch in to Go to Sleep. That was a mistake. He gets blasted by 2 Solar Beams in a row before we can move, knocking him out. Man, I was really upset with myself after that one. I decide to switch back into Anne Boleyn. I simply use Destiny Bond as Venusaur takes both of us out. Man, what a mistake that was. I unnecessarily sacked Go to Sleep. But Venusaur is down and there's one left. It's Charizard. I send out Cosmo, foolishly thinking that maybe I'll outspeed him and land a Sleep Powder. Nope. He's faster and blasts us with the Flamethrower, knocking us out. So I decide to go with Totoro after that. Charizard misses a Fire Spin as we land Toxic. I decide to set up the Sandstorm to deal some chip damage, and he hits a big Flamethrower. I decide to stay in with Totoro, and we crucially survive the next Flamethrower with 17 hit points, and thus are able to use Rest. This fully heals us. Now, I gave Totoro the Mint Berry to hold before this battle, so we wake up right away. This allows us to stall out another turn of Poison with Protect. Just a matter of time now, and I can win it with a double Protect. So I go for it. And I get it. Poison takes the Charizard down to a sliver, and Sandstorm finishes him off. And that's it. We did it. This was my second attempt at Red. The first try I reset before I even beat Pikachu since we missed our first 4 attacks. I can't believe that even with some poor decisions on my part, we were able to get past Red so quickly. Actually, looking back, he wasn't that much harder than Blue. This was such a fun run. Sure, the early game was brutal, and some better decisions on my part at the beginning would have surely saved me a couple hours of gameplay, but overall, it wasn't too bad. Since the making of this video, I have seen the video of J-Rose making his video of this challenge in the same generation. His video will be linked in the description. Give him a watch and a sub. He is one of the OGs of Pokemon challenges, and honestly, it was him and Madrybread who originally inspired me to give these challenges a shot. Give him a view. If you like this kind of thing, they have thousands of hours of really good content available. I love doing this kind of challenge. It's just really interesting to use different Pokemon and different strategies to beat a Pokemon game while only using status moves. I'm definitely going to try this in other games. Anyway, this video has gone on long enough. If you're still here, you're amazing for sticking around, and thank you so much. Like, subscribe, and most of all, comment if you enjoyed. I know that subbing and liking and all that's supposed to be better for the algorithm, but I really don't care about that. I just want to have fun making these videos, and hearing directly from someone that they enjoyed means so much more to me than any sub. Anyway, that's all I got. Thanks again for watching. See you next time.